A very good morning and welcome to the Rebound for the week. My name is Godwin Sunday. On Monday, the week began with Northerners calling on the president to please save their business. Take a listen.
It is a reflection of a failed government because in a civilized climate, it is unheard of, despite what we are producing in the country, that today we are experiencing total blackout in the northern part of the country. But I believe with time it may extend to other parts of the country. So the government is not actually doing well. That is my own personal opinion. Because what effort are they doing? What led to it? It is not even made known to the public. Because sometimes they will just allow certain things to go bad, believing that the citizen cannot do anything. They are capitalizing on the complacency and what? Without the self-satisfied nature of the citizens. That's my own personal take on it. As far as I'm concerned, the government is to be blamed. Because when they have made up their mind to render essential services to the people, what aspect of the country is working effectively with respect to the services being rendered by the government? I suggest they should even allow the private sector to handle this thing.
See, I'm from Adamawa State, Temsa local government to be precise. And since I was born, we've not had light, not until 2 months ago. Since inception, since Nigeria was created, not until 2 months ago. Not my own part of it, there are no bandits there. You understand? So we should stop the blame game. It's not the fault of bandits. Let's not give government upper head so that they will not have what they will use as argument against us. It's not the fault of bandits, it's the fault of the government. Because I remember there was even a time in my village when they brought transformers. The same government didn't wire those transformers. Till we don't even know what happened to those transformers. For years, for more than 10 years, those transformers were there. Transformers bought with taxpayers' money. Nigeria's money. Transformers, brand new transformers. How they vanished, till I left my village, was going for Christmas for years, more than 10 years. The transformers were there. There was no light on the transformer. So let's stop the blame game. The government is our problem. The government should sit up and do what they need. The government should see government as business, not as where you come and steal money and frustrate people.
It's not good, Sha, for the thing that is happening because it's affecting the business and also it's affecting the productivity of the nation for the citizens and like for there's no light in the country now. It's affecting the businesses of the masses. Businesses are not moving the way it's supposed to be. And for those that are behind the banditry, something that they're talking about, the government should please try and do something about it so that at least people can go back to their various businesses and it will help. It will also help to boost the economic of the country.
And the night wey no dey for north, light no dey for everywhere, and people are cry, people are suffer. May government help us for that light and security.
On Tuesday, Mr. Kennedy Chime was in the studio to speak to us about Tinubu's economic policies and some of the future prospects for Nigeria. Do take a look.
There is a difference between growth and development, and we need to make that difference immediately. When you say it is growing, it is increasing probably in GDP, in numbers, and then in gross national capital, GDP, gross domestic product, and GNP. But when you talk about development, which is the key, you are talking about answering questions that has to do with poverty, questions that have to do with inequality, then questions that have to do with unemployment. So for now, Nigeria may be growing without development. Recently, the central bank governor made a press conference in United States, I think in New York. He gave indices of what they have gained in the policy. But first of all, let's look at the key policies. And then when you look at it in totality, you now want to know, answer that question. Are we really having what we want? First of all, the policy on floating exchange rate. The economy, the government is operating a managed floating. That is where once in a while the central bank will intervene. And then also they have removed the subsidy. That is one of the stabilization policies of the Bretton Woods, which is to reduce public expenditure. And they are still on their privatization policy. And then, like you said, the CBN came up with tight monetary policies, increasing the MPR to 27.5%, increasing the liquidity ratio to 30%, and even the cash deposit requirement, they increased it also now to 50%, meaning that banks are required to keep as much as 50%. Now, the implication of this, what they are looking at is to bring down inflation through reducing expenditure, through reducing purchasing power, through reducing, the what we call disposable income, and then making capital costly. Now, for some sectors of the real economy, for some sectors, like sectors that probably may have to do with exports, it may be advantageous. And one of the probable aim of the main goal, based on theoretical foundation, is that they want to promote export and reduce exports. Then they want to increase inflow, that is foreign direct investment. So when you talk about, people appreciating security, people buying shares and all those, of course, some sectors may gain. But on the overall, what we'll be looking at, what is the entire effect on the economy? I said initially that Nigeria might be growing, but not developing. And that is the issue. That's where we are. That is the problem. So one of our role models in economics, Professor Sears, is, I think he was the first founder of the Development Institute in UK. And he is an expert in development economics, which most economists now tend to buy. He defined development as answering three key questions. Do you have poverty reduction? Have you achieved employment, gains? Have you achieved reduction in inequality? If these three things are not there, then no matter the numbers you are churning out, even if you are capital, okay, for that now, Nigeria may be thinking, yes, in the past 1 year, that we have grown our foreign reserve. That's fine. But when you have grown your foreign reserve, and when probably, you said you have stabilized your foreign exchange. That's one of the things the central bank government said recently. You have stabilized the foreign, and then what? The question is, how does it affect others? So when you talk about development, people are losing their jobs. People are the poverty is getting too bad. Now, we understand as economists that in the short run, these policies, what you call market reforms, are probably what people are going to face. But then, in most economies where these things are done and you achieve what we want to achieve, you have a lot of, you combine it. You have a program, long-term program, so that when you begin to face this, but churning out tight fiscal policies, monetary policies at the same time. Like I said, using managed floating.
On Wednesday, Isa Usman was in the studio to speak to us about the commercialization of the Nigerian health sector. Do take a look.
Here to let Nigerians and the general public, to a world at large, to understand the difference between wellness and the medical. So if you go to most of our hospitals today, you hear healthcare service providers saying, my patient, our patients. So, and we in healthcare tourism business, we hardly call patients. The reason is that we deal with both patients and those that go to hospitals, either to go for checkup or either full body checkup or comprehensive medical assessment. So it's not everybody that go to hospitals, you understand, part of correction, that are patients. You understand? Some even go to hospital to donate blood. Are you going to call them patients? So some go to hospital to know their health status. Are you going to call them patients? So it's not everybody that go to hospital that are patients. And this may also make you to understand that there is a project we are developing presently. We call it PPP. That is a plate to peel. You know, from plate to peel. So if you abuse food in a plate, then the next thing you have to embrace peel, because many people cannot eat today. The medicine has become their food. So it's because they are not taking care of their well-being. You know, in Nigeria, most of us eat anyhow. You understand? We don't have the eating habit. So it's even good time to time for a person to be going to hospital for health checkup, because we so much believe in breaking down or corrective maintenance in this part of the world. You know, there are two types of maintenance. We have preventive or breaking down maintenance, and breaking down or corrective maintenance. At times we'll be having some feelings, you know, kind of, instead of to go and check our health status, we'll be managing until the illness knocks us down before we'll now say, okay, let's go to hospital for health checkup. You understand? Or for treatments. So preventive maintenance is always the best, and that is where wellness comes in. So wellness, you must not be sick before you go to hospital for checkup, or you must not be sick for go to recreational centers, either for exercise or for gymming or for acupuncture and others, or for yoga and others. Why is it that we are not doing well medically in Nigeria? We are doing well medically, but why is it that we are not known? We are not known because we are looking healthcare with one eye instead of looking healthcare with two eyes. Healthcare should be looking with two eyes, as in we're supposed to be seeing healthcare as a profit and not profit-making venture. Yeah, because if you go to top-ranking medical tourism destinations today, like India, Turkey, Thailand, Singapore, Mexico, Ukraine, Jordan, Egypt, what they do in all these countries that I mentioned, they look at care with two eyes, and that is why we are getting it right. They are getting it right. Because government look at care more of charitable kind of things, and private sector look at care pure business. And that is why you see 99% or even 100% of people, let's say 99%, so that I not look as if I'm exaggerating, people traveling abroad for medical treatment travel to private hospitals, not public hospitals. Let me shock you. Do you know how many hospitals are calling me from all over the world, from all the top-ranking medical tourism destinations every day? Mr. Osman, what is the problem? You have not been sending us patients. You have not been sending. Is it that because we are not treating your patient well, or is it because of this, that? Before you know, another hospital call me, oh, Mr. Osman, send us patient. We'll make sure we give your patient service apartment where they can cook Nigeria food. They will take care of them. If they want to go to mosque or go to church and pray, we will take them to the mosque. Even in our hospital, we have mosque, we have church, because they know we are lover of religion in Nigeria. So if they want to go to market or they need language interpreter, we should be able to get it for them. It's because they look healthcare as a business. And let me even shock you. Do you know that healthcare is very expensive everywhere in the world? It's very expensive everywhere in the world. Do you know that there are some machines, you understand, that cost millions of US dollar, whooping sum of money? You understand? You cannot buy that kind of machine and bring to your facility and be compromising with it. And why is it that Indians are doing well? Because what I mentioned India is that India is the biggest beneficiary of Nigerian market, because 70% of population of Africans travel to India for Medicare. And people are coming from all over the world to make use of to make use of their facilities. Do you think it's only India alone that is making use of the facilities? So people are coming, and that is what we want to do in Nigeria, so that it can also attract outsiders to start coming to Nigeria to receive medical treatments.
On Thursday, Abusin Emmanuel was in the studio to speak to us about the impact of food markets on the Nigerian economy. Do take a look.
It's affected the Nigerian economy in a very bad way. When you talk about food security for the people first, you know, when you talk about food security, we're not just only talking about having enough to eat, we're also talking about having enough to spare, and also for exportation. But at the moment, because of the flood and other factors that have affected the market, that affected agriculture, causing market shock, has drastically affected our economy. in terms of revenue generation, in terms of even having enough to consume as people. So we're in a very bad situation at the moment, and I think that was one of the things that led the president to declare a state of emergency on agriculture, and seeing how they can boost this sector to be able to, first of all, talk about food sufficiency, food security. Then we now also talk about exportation. Since the oil boom of the 1970s, there are a lot of things that have affected the Nigeria agricultural value chain. You know, in the agricultural value chain, we have the downstream and the upper stream. So before the oil boom, we're more concerned about the upper stream, which is the farmers production. Now, you know, when you look at the upper stream, it takes you to land. We are talking about food production itself, farming, and all of that. Then when we want to talk about downstream, it's how we process this food to become consumables for the final consumers. So that is the downstream. So along the chain, when we had the oil boom, there were disruptions in our value chain, which is food production. Because what we're doing is agriculture. Now there's a difference between agriculture and food production. Food production is how we transform those raw materials into other byproducts, like granite to oil, granite oil, and other products that comes from it. So you take a critical look at the granite pyramid we have in Kano. What we had was granite pyramid. How are we transforming the granites to other value chains? So when the oil boom came, it was like there was no need to spend more time on the farm when we have excess proceeds coming from the oil. Then we got that value chain distorted, which has now been affecting us, that we cannot recover from the shock. Now, why are investors pulling out of Nigeria? We're not still getting it right. In terms of when you take a critical look at the farming ecosystem in Nigeria, we have over 60% of smallholder farmers producing over 90% of what we consume. The other large-scale farmers don't produce for the local market; they produce for export. That is for export for international market. Now, when you now take a look at how we fund these smallholder farmers, the funding is very risky to fund these smallholder farmers, especially that when you fund the smallholder farmers, and you give them, you're funding them to give them productive credit. Now they convert this productive credit into consumption loans. And now when you consume productive credits, which are meant to be used for business, into consumption, you can't pay back those loans. So at the end of the day, you now have what we call loan defaults that affect in large scope other investments that come into this particular sector. Like we have risks in every business. It's the same way we have in agriculture, but we have not been able to mitigate those risks in terms of, one, clustering these farmers together to be able to fund them effectively and produce. And then it's hard for investors to keep investing where they know that their money is not coming out from. Now let's take a very critical look at the Anchor's Barracks program. Over 1 trillion naira was invested in the scheme. We only had 600 million returning back. So this is risky for investors. That is why it is less than 4%, sometimes 5%, sometimes 10% investment that go towards agriculture. Not because agriculture is not profitable, but because we have not been able to recreate the agricultural ecosystem in Nigeria like other parts of the world. We are not investing in the right work frame.
All the states?
Yes, in terms of execution now.
Okay.
Now we only have some states, like you mentioned, Oyo State, trying to do their bit in integrating, the agricultural ecosystem. We need to see it as an ecosystem, not just funding a particular component, for us to be able to see the results down from production, processing, and down to up to distribution. So once we're able to fund this particular process correctly, we might not be able to achieve the result we want to achieve. Then again, in terms of continuity, government should be government of continuity, regardless of any political party, especially when these programs are going to be of benefit to the public. Because you are serving the public, you are called a public servant. So each of these particular programs and projects are meant to be followed through in terms of execution. So why other states are not getting it rightly is they have not still seen the benefit of why it needs for them to fund the smallholder farmers effectively.
On Friday, Victoria Yusufu was in the studio to speak to us about parental negligence and the impact on children. Do take a look.
Everything starts in the home, and if parents don't sit up to their responsibility, of course, it's easy, it's a human tendency to blame other people easily. Just like my fingers now, if you look at it, if I point at somebody, 4 of it is pointing back at me. So a lot of people don't know that they are supposed to impact certain things to their children before they even send them to school. Back then, many years ago, you see parents saying, you have to sit down well, you have to eat your food, you have to clean after yourself, you have to greet elders, you have to respect people. Even among your siblings, they'll say, this is the first child, everybody has to respect him or her. And that is how most of us grew up. Even our parents, they had it tougher than us. But unfortunately now, a lot of people forget those things and they feel that, oh, my own parents were too harsh, so I don't need to be so harsh on my children. Not knowing that the harshness with love is what is expected of parents. It's a responsibility, it's an assignment, it's a calling. You can't just be a parent just because, oh, you got pregnant or you got married and you feel that the only thing you have to do is education and then you just let your children slide, or you just have house help doing everything. You have to know your role as a parent and be sure that you take it day by day. Of course, parents are not perfect because they have their own background also, but at least the little they've learned out of life, they should be able to instill these values into their children early enough before going to school. And then the school authorities also should know that, oh, they are different children in this school with different backgrounds, so we should be able to teach them morals. They have subjects like for morals, values, habits. But apart from the book, parents in schools, because these teachers, some of them are already parents, they should be able to instill correction, morals, values to the children they are teaching. It's not just to come write lesson notes and then just reel out things for children and say, oh, you are supposed to say good morning ma, and then write your notes, do your homework and all. There are other things you will notice in the life of a child and be able to say, oh, Junior, you did this wrong. You're supposed to sit, or you're supposed to say sorry to the next child. You're supposed to do your homework, your work. You're coming late to school. What happened? You're supposed to relate to these children. But you know what? A lot of people in our system, in education system these days, are after the paycheck. They are not called into that teaching line. So they don't care if your child comes dressed anyhow, if the socks is dirty, if the sandals are torn. They don't care about that. They're just after their salary. And so they just close and, it's not my child. Not knowing that our parents succeeded because a child belongs to just the parents and the society. Rather, not just the parents, but also the society. So if you see a lady dressed wrongly, even if you don't know her from Adam, you say, hey, you're not dressing well. If you see a child, maybe in a bus now, that the child, like what you said at the beginning, that some children these days won't stand up for elders.
No,
other children,
it's a normal thing now, so.
Yes, other uncles and aunties and mommies and grandfathers will say, hey, stand up. I remember when I was pregnant with my first 2 daughters, if I'm in public transport, without saying anything, other people around will speak to these children or teenagers and say, don't you see that she's pregnant? Stand up. I was on queue for ATM. ATM to withdraw money some time ago, and I was there for a long time with several other people, and there was this young guy ahead of me. A woman said, please allow this woman to go and withdraw first. He said, no, after all of us are under the sun, this and that. He said, no, I won't even allow you. You rather take my own step, my own place, let this woman go. So these are the things we need to keep reminding people. We need to speak out. If you see something, say something. So we don't just relax and say, oh, it's not my child, it's my neighbor's child, it's not actually my child. It's the child in the church, it's not my child. It's somebody's child, it's not my child. So when you see the child going in the wrong way, you should be able to correct them. Don't just wait for parents, don't just wait for teachers alone.
We were joined by the senior legislative officer to the Senate President in the person of Senate President Obot Akpabio, his legislative aide in the person of Great Owo, was in the studio to speak to us about youth involvement in governance. Do take a listen.
Youths
involvement in governance and politics, as long as Nigeria is concerned, has always been the bedrock, of youth involvement in governance. The youth are the one who seek for democracy in this country, irrespective of how we have journeyed so far. But we know that those who came out in their voices and demanded for the democracy of this country were youth. They were young, full women and men who decided that it was time for us to get together and have a deciding factor on the way we move as a nation. So yes, for me, I feel youth have always been involved in governance and in democracy. There's just this perception about, for example, they would say, don't run for office. How will I put it? This perception and this knowledge that, even if you vote, your vote will not count. But that's not the truth, because there's a process on which how things are done, and it's only fair for you to be able to be a part of this, consecutively and consistently as they go, to be able to shape how we get involved as youth in governance. So for me, if you ask me, I feel that youth have always been involved in governance. There's just this smokescreen and belief that youths should not be involved in governance, or youths feel more laid back and relaxed and having this knowledge or this perception that the old guys in the business or the old guy in governance and politics are the one running things, if I'll use that useful word. And I feel like every day there are more conscious youth out there who know that they have to be a part of the process, to be a deciding factor. There is indeed hope, and the renewed hope agenda that we preach definitely tilts us towards this direction. You can see it from the local government financial autonomy bill, which has just been signed, from by the National Assembly, sent from the executive. This just tells you that the system understands that politics is local, meaning that it all starts from the grassroots. Godwin, let me share with you that just during this local government election, I went back home to my community to campaign the length and breadth of our local governments, wards and units, to be able to talk with the people. This is a continuous effort, by the way. It's not just something that we do during the election, but continuously to be able to interact and have engagement with the people and say, let us understand what is happening back at home, so that representatives like us that you send on duties will be able to make sure that the dividends of democracy comes back down. It is imperative that the local governments are very keyed into the decision making of governance, and in politics in general. I have this I think I don't know if I'll call it a principle or a school of thought, that the society starts from the family. And if we can get it right from the family sector, it will trickle down to our smallest community for it to enable us to even take us down to the presidency or a governor, because a president or governor comes from a family. And if the right values and morals are being taught in the family, in respect to governance and politics, it will trickle down to the leaders that we, in order put in place to lead us. It is important. And I'm happy that in the administration of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu Renew Hope agenda, led, through also with the President of the Legislative, with the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, as well as what the Speaker is doing in the House of Rep, you can see that they have the projection for them to making sure that in the grassroots, things are done properly, and we get engaged people from the grassroots to be able to represent the people and bring down, the dividends of democracy down to the grassroots. Everybody should be a part and parcel of what we are doing. It's imperative. It's very important. We're going all around, and I could see the vibrant numbers of youth in the community from ward to ward, agitating for who they know or who they feel was going to be able to get the job done for them. And that's the beauty of democracy. You have various parties, to get involved to be able to lead you to that direction. That is why it's important for youths in the community, as down as the grassroots, coming from the units to the wards, down to the local government, down to the states, while we are looking up to the federal, to be able to get involved. And how can you do this? You can do this by being part of a political party. And that is the Rebound for the week. I am Godwin Sunday. Do stay with Signature Television for more updates.